Right, Paddy, so something I'm seeing a lot is this whole assumption that you need to go really low calorie on your rest days. So it's almost like it's just an assumption. It's not even like something you would question. It's just like, well, obviously if I'm not training, I need to eat way less calories. What are your thoughts?
It sounds logical.
It does. It's very logical, and that's why I'm saying, it's almost like an assumption. It's just something people don't even question.
Yeah, like it sounds very okay. I do something during my day that supposedly burns a lot of calories, so I'm eating to accommodate for that, and then I'm eating to either diet or grow depending on the goals. So if I'm not training, I'm not burning all those calories that I would have otherwise been burning while I was training, surely I don't need to eat them. Sounds very logical, but again, you have to look at the overall or the long-term goal, and that is that rest day should be thought of as like a recovery day.
Yeah. So
you're actually eating to fuel recovery on that day, like, or the weekly cycle, the weekly, monthly, yearly training cycle. Like, you want to think of it as you've accumulated all this fatigue throughout the whole week, and that rest day is to help decrease that fatigue to some extent.
Yes.
Yeah. And a part of that is recovering from that training, which requires calories.
Yes.
So reducing your calories, while it makes sense logically, you're not training, you're not exercising, you don't need them, it doesn't actually click with your long-term goals or the actual goal of that rest or recovery day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do have a small percentage of clients that I will give lower calorie rest days to, purely because they're the type of clients that they just prefer to eat more on their training days because of whatever reason. But the majority of my clients, to be honest, it's those rest days that people tend to go off track on because you're bored. Especially because a rest day tends to be put on like a Saturday or Sunday. You're off work, you're off college or whatever, and then if you're not training as well, suddenly you've got all this free time that needs to be filled, and you're like, oh, I actually want to eat a bit extra. So for some clients, I even give them extra calories on those rest days because it actually fits in with their life. So another point on that as well is that the human body isn't just like a 24-hour thing, in that whatever I eat today, as soon as I wake up tomorrow, it's just gone, it's not being stored. All right, so if you're eating those calories or those extra carbohydrates or whatever, because they're typically the one that tends to be decreased on rest days. So like if you're eating let's say your normal calories on your rest day, those carbohydrates are then there stored, synthesized into glycogen, and ready for that next day's workout when you do go in and train. So like overall, to put it into a kind of a practical summary, I would say for most people, you're better off to just keep calories steady throughout the week. If there is a reason in terms of like you prefer more calories on one day over another, and it makes you more adherent to your diet, then go with that. But I wouldn't be playing around with fancy physiological rationale as to why one strategy is better than the other. I just think consistency is always better.
Yeah, especially if you are in a training block or in a series of days that you have strung together in that training week. Like we do legs on a Monday, and our rest day is generally a Sunday.
Yeah, I want to be fueled.
Like I want to be, and we train in the morning, like 6 a.m. as well. So if I was to have a low calorie Sunday,
I'd be going into Monday feeling a bit fatigued because I wouldn't be full from the day previous.
Exactly, so you're not accomplishing the goal of being recovered for that next training day. You're not going into that training session and then maximizing that training session. So I'm in a complete agreement, unless it's some sort of personal preference thing, or it's some, I'm going to say lifestyle thing. Again, it's personal preference. Other than that, like I wouldn't be lowering my carbs or my calories in general on that rest day. Again, apart from the psychological thing or the personal preference thing, I see no real reason to be doing it. Like you could argue that maybe some people find it a little bit easier to stick to a weekly deficit and creating that on the rest days. But again, I generally would like to see it steady across the whole week.
It makes it easier to track progress as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, I think